right, for our next class at the John David Ebert School for the Study of Culture, Cosmology, and the Arts, we will be doing Jean Baudrillard. And so we're going to spend 8 weeks and go through 8 of his most important books, the ones that I think are essential for understanding Baudrillard. And the class will begin on Saturday, June 8th at 2 p.m. MST. And we'll continue for 8 Saturdays in a row until July 27th. That'll be the last class. And so the books that we're going to read in this class are, first of all, and I think it's an essential introduction to Baudrillard, is this book here, America. It's very accessible, it's not difficult to read, and it's sort of his reflections as he's traveling around America, reflecting on the nature of American society as a society of the hyper-real. And so he explores and gives you very concrete examples of what he means by the term hyper-reality, which he says Americans do better than anyone else on the planet. We're not so great at culture, he says, but what's great about us is precisely our amusement parks, our Las Vegas theme shows, that whole world. Las Vegas is more or less, you might say, and Los Angeles as well. It's like there's 2 Vaticans of this world of hyper-reality, and that's what it's all about. And he falls in love with American culture. It's a pretty fun book. Yeah, I was reading it expecting him to be like very critical of it, the way, let's say, William Irwin Thompson was in his book, The American Replacement of Nature. Baudrillard loves America. And then his second book that we'll read, so after we get this sort of soft introduction to him, then we'll read his most difficult book, but it's also his most famous, Simulacra and Simulation. Absolutely essential for understanding the theory of what's behind his perceptions in America. This is his sort of theoretical apparatus. And the third book, and probably the second best introduction to him, if Simulacra and Simulation is still too difficult for you, you can skip it and go to this book, Screened Out, which is a series of articles that he wrote, I think, for like a French magazine, a publication, a newspaper, something like that. So you have to be very clear. You can't do the highbrow philosophical thing for a public newspaper, even though the standards of literacy, of course, in Paris would be much higher than they are anywhere in America. But nonetheless, these are really readable essays in Screened Out. He talks about just current events, Madonna, the AIDS epidemic, and so forth. Just gives you a very sort of broad scope picture of his worldview. And then, so here's the curriculum proper. So we start with America, Simulacra, Simulation, Screened Out, and then we're going to read The Transparency of Evil, which is a fun little book. His take on evil as that which, evil is not a matter for him of ethics. It's not good versus evil. It's more a matter of functioning versus not functioning. We tend to define evil as that which disrupts the smooth functioning of a system. AIDS is evil in that sense because it disrupts the smooth functioning of the immune system. Terrorism is a form of evil, not because it's evil inherently, but because it disrupts the smooth functioning of the global ecumeny of capitalism, and so forth. And then one of his most famous books, The Gulf War Did Not Take Place. What he really means by that title is not that it literally did not take place, the first Gulf War that he's talking about, but it may as well not have taken place because it got screened out, just hyper-mediatized, covered through CNN. It's really the first sort of cable war, let's say. Impossible Exchange is another really good one, and The Intelligence of Evil, or The Lucidity Pact. And then finally, we'll finish up with his short book that he wrote after 9/11, The Spirit of Terrorism and Requiem for the Twin Towers. It's excellent. These are all excellent works of... I think that Baudrillard, of all the French Pomo thinkers that I have studied, I like him the best. I just think he's amazing. Deleuze as well, too, but for completely different reasons. It's not so much for cultural criticism with Deleuze, but Jean Baudrillard is like the cultural critic. I mean, he defines the practice of cultural criticism as far as I'm concerned. He sets the standard for it. And it was sort of after his work that I set out in my 40s to try and model myself after. It was kind of Baudrillard was my hero in that sense. The pricing is $250, which I think is more than reasonable. And there are other classes on there because you can. The plan I have with Teachable only allows me to ever have 5 classes published at a time. So they always have a limitation here for 3 classes on here. I've only got 2 right now, but if you're interested in any of the other courses, I have them all recorded. You would contact me at johndavidebert@gmail.com, and they usually go for about $150 for all the classes for any particular class, whether it's James Joyce, Ulysses, The Magic Mountain, Nietzsche, Rudolf Steiner, Understanding Mythology, all of that. We still do, Josh Hicks and I do Thursday night movie nights. That's a $20 a month subscription for anyone who's interested. We're having a blast on Thursday nights at 6 p.m. MST. And I also do astrology readings. Again, hit me up at johndavidebert@gmail.com for that. And I also have a Patreon account for those of you. Donations are always very, very much appreciated. All right, that's it. I'll see you in class.